Good morning, Scorpios, and welcome to your 12 Days of Yule 2023 predictions video. Welcome to December the 28th. Let me just first explain how all of this is going to work, and then we'll get into your 2023 predictions. So today in this video, I'm going to present 3 readings to you. These readings will consist of the general overall predictions for 2023, love and relationship predictions for 2023, as well as work, career, and money predictions. Let me remind all of the Scorpios out there that there are a lot of you. And this is a general reading for everyone who is born under the sign of Scorpio. As such, some of it is going to resonate with you and some of it will not. It just means that some of it was not your timing and it wasn't a message that was meant for you. So take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Also, here comes the disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a lawyer. Anything in this video that is construed as advice, take it with however many grains of salt you want to add. You have free will. It is entirely up to you as to whether you choose to follow advice or whether you choose to make your own decisions. Again, I am a psychic. I am tapping into the unseen world. I am using oracle cards and tarot cards to give you the best possible overview. But like I said, you make your own decisions because this is being made in the here and now. And as time goes on, as you make decisions, your reality shifts and changes. Okay. I work with quite a number of different oracle card decks as well as tarot decks. And what I found is rather than using one single deck for everyone's reading, I found that I get called to certain decks to pull certain cards based on the spread that I'm going to be using. And I found that this gives a more accurate, well-rounded reading to people rather than using a soul deck. So you will see me close my eyes from time to time and ask which deck I am meant to be pulling the card from. I do have 4 decks laid out that I will be starting with. Each of the 3 readings, and there are timestamps in the description, each of the 3 readings I'm going to be giving are going to be based on a 6-card pull or a 6-card spread. There's very likely going to be more than 6 cards in each of the readings because the decks like to have sometimes 2 or 3 cards jump out. Also, sometimes I am called to pull a clarifying card. You know, if the message is a little bit muddled on one card, we pull another card to help clarify the message that's coming through. I think that's all the announcements. I hope so. If I've forgotten anything, I'll add it in later. Oh, that was the other thing. As I mentioned, there are a lot of you Scorpios out there. And so this is a general reading. If you are interested in having a personal reading for 2023, a reading exclusively for you and your energies, check down in the description box. I will put a link in there for my year-end special. I run this special and do a particular spread. It's a 13-card spread only once a year, only at this time of the year. The 13-card spread consists of 1 card for each month in 2023 to give you the overall energy of what's going to happen in that month, as well as a 13th card, which is known as the anchor card. It ties everything all in together for you. All right. Just saw my son come up and go in behind there. I do not edit my videos. What you see is what you get. I like to go all natural. All right, let's get started. We're going to tap into the energy of Scorpio. And we're going to begin the general reading for 2023. The very first card that I'm going to be pulling is going to be you now? Where is Scorpio right now? Okay. I am going to shift this deck over here and this one over here because just in my mind's eye, they're not quite in the right spot. I apologize for the reflection. I am doing this reading earlier in the morning than I normally do, and the sun is shining directly into the window that's in front of my desk. So in a few minutes, some of the reflections will start to subside. Okay, for Scorpio, where are you now, right now? So I do have a card. I leave all of the cards face down. I do not look at the cards prior to beginning the reading. And I do this so that as I'm pulling the final card of the spread, I'm not being influenced and there's no energies being influenced by the cards that are already up. I found that this is a more accurate way to give a reading. Let's have a look at your focus, Scorpio. What is your focus going to be in 2023? I'm being called to this deck again and another deck. So Scorpio 2023 general focus. Okay, one more mix. There we go. Okay. We did have two cards fall out. All right, let's look at your difficult influences. Now, the difficult influences card or cards, basically whether they come up upright or upside down, it doesn't matter, are read as if they mean the opposite in the difficult influences area, okay? Unless, of course, it's a card that already has a negative meaning and then we take it literally. But let's have a look. Scorpio, difficult influences in 2023. Come on, this is the deck that wanted to come out and speak to us. So let's have a card for the difficult influences. Okay, do you see that card? It does not want to go back in. There we go. Do we need a clarifying card on this one? I got a big fat maybe. Okay. What makes sense for Scorpio in 2023? What makes sense? Where are we going? It's one of these two decks. You're going to have to show me more clearly, Spirit. You're being a little bit fuzzy this morning. Not surprising, it's very early in the morning. What makes sense for Scorpio in 2023? I need you to come in clearly. There we go, that's better. Okay, we've got a card that flipped over. I didn't see what it was, but I've since turned it back face down, so I can't see what it is. Unexpected insights. Let's have a look at your unexpected insights, Scorpio. Okay. This deck, the Angels and Ancestors deck, seems to have a lot of messages for you right now, Scorpio. I'm being called to this deck for quite a number of cards in this spread. Okay, we've got two cards that have come out. All right. And general overall outcome. General overall outcome. Where are we going? Over here. Get started with the actual reading. All right. You now. Scorpios, the white witch, be the light. Okay. And again, I apologize for the reflections on the cards. Hopefully that's coming into focus for you. So where you are at right now, Scorpio, you are the light of other people's lives. You are an inspiration to other people. I'm getting the sense that for some of you, you don't believe that. You don't recognize your own strength and your own power. And the word that's coming to mind is there's a little bit of imposter syndrome going on for some of you. You don't recognize how much you influence the people that are around you, family and friends. What's coming up for me is for some of you, you have younger siblings or younger nieces, nephews. There's little people around you is the sense that I'm getting for a lot of you. And those people, those little people, they look up to you. And you don't realize how much of an impact you're having on them. You are a light to them. You are an inspiration to them. And in the tarot and in the traditional oracle cards that we use, different oracle cards, the masculine, feminine, male, female is really, really irrelevant. So the fact that this says white witch, well, we also have male witches as well as female witches. What the real message on this card is that you are the light. People are looking up to you. You'll notice on this card that there is an owl, okay? The wise old owl. It is an indication of extra knowledge and respect for that knowledge, that people will look to you as the wise old owl. Okay, not that I'm implying any of you are old. Let's look at your focus for 2023, because that's really what this reading is all about, is your focus. We do have two cards that have come up. Ooh, okay. You've got two cards here. One is the Star Ancestor and the other one is the Mirror Guardian. And again, we've got that reflection coming off. Let me see if I move it back. Okay. The message on the Star Ancestor, follow the voice of your soul. And the message on the Mirror Guardian is take time to reflect. Okay. Both of these cards have similar meanings. Okay. This year is a call for you Scorpios to get back in touch with your soul, with your soul purpose. We all know that we come to planet Earth for the purposes of learning soul lessons. But as soon as we're born, we forget those lessons and we spend a lifetime reconnecting with what those lessons are and then learning those lessons. And so in 2023, Scorpio, this year is going to be an opportunity for you. If you don't already know what your life or soul lesson is, it's a year for you to look into that and begin to dig deep into that. And it is also, if you already know what your soul lesson is, but you're perhaps struggling a little bit with it, you're not, like I said, I sense for some of you, there's an imposter syndrome going on. Understand that once you know what your soul purpose is, once you know what those lessons are, you can really dig deep and start to learn them. And you can start to impart that knowledge to others. I suspect for a lot of you, you've already started to do that with this card coming up. You've already started to do that work, but perhaps you're not doing it on a conscious level just yet. The Mirror Guardian has two meanings for you this year, Scorpio. One of the meanings of the Mirror Guardian is take time to reflect, which is obvious. Like if you're looking for the voice of your soul, if you're looking for your soul's purpose, and if you're looking how to learn the lessons that you came here to learn, then you need to take time to reflect. You need to, dare I say, really, really dig into a spiritual practice, whether that be prayer, whether that be meditation, whether that be exercise. Yes, exercise can really, really get you in touch with you, who you are, and what you're meant to be doing. That's really, really important. Going for walks, going for hikes, dancing, singing, any of these things are different ways for you to reflect and get in touch with you, Scorpio. The second meaning for the Mirror Guardian is it's a card that can be seen as a karmic card because it's a mirror card, which means that pay attention in 2023 to what you're putting out there and what is being reflected back to you. Okay. If you're putting a whole whack of negativity out there on a regular basis, you're going to be getting a whole whack of negativity reflected back at you on a regular basis. So pay attention to what you're putting out there. Okay. Now, we all have bad days from time to time. We all get negative from time to time, but we also have good days. Okay. There is a balance in there. But pay attention to what you're putting out into the world. With this Mirror Guardian card coming up in your main focus for this general part of your reading, it's an indication that there's some karmic lessons out there for you this year. Let's have a look at your difficult influences. Now, in your difficult influences, I was called upon to pull two cards from two separate decks. This was the first card that I was called to pull, and I was called to pull a clarifying card. Infinite abundance. Abundance is pouring into your life. Okay. Now, I'm trying to move this so that it's not in the sun. I hope that you can see that card. This card coming up in the difficult influences area of your reading is difficult. It's an indication that working towards abundance in 2023 is going to be a little bit more difficult for you than it has been for some of the other signs. We'll get more into this later on in this video when I do the reading for your money, career, work, and so on. That'll be the third reading, but this card is coming up in the difficult influences is an indication that it's not an indication that there is not going to be abundance in your life, but it is an indication that it is something that you will have to work a little bit harder at in 2023. This is also talking about not just financial abundance. I want to point that out. This is talking about friends, family, housing situations, all of those different things are all forms of abundance. Energy is a form of abundance. And so what this is saying is that it's just something that you need to work a little bit harder at. It's not saying that, oh my God, doom and gloom and everything's going to be ripped out from underneath you. Not at all. It just means that it's something to work at. Okay. The second card is the slowing down card, which is represented by the turtle or the tortoise, whichever is on that card. This card coming up in your difficult influences is telling me that you have a little difficulty slowing down, right? Because this has the opposite meaning. And it's telling me that in order for you to accomplish what you need to accomplish this year, you can't be squirreled. You know, you can't be concentrating on this. Oh, look over there. You can't be doing that this year. Because the more that you do that, the less you're going to be able to focus upon the goals and the important things that are going on in your life. Okay. Okay, so yeah, and this is telling me that I fixed the issue with the reflection. Okay, this card is telling me in the difficult influences that you're going to have a little bit of difficulty slowing down this year. You are going to be pulled in a number of different directions from time to time. And in order for you to achieve your goals this year, both financial goals, abundance goals, abundance, slowing down, you're going to have to not get squirreled easily. Set a goal this year, Scorpio, and then work towards that goal. That's essentially what this is telling me. Okay. The cicada is coming up in your "this makes sense." Okay. This is telling me that, yeah, this makes sense. Okay. With the White Witch, as I already mentioned, it seems as though you don't realize your own power and you don't realize the influence that you have on others. Your message, interestingly, on this card is to follow the voice of your soul. And then you get the card that specifically speaks to your voice. Okay. This is telling me, Scorpio, use your voice for good this year. Use your voice to help to influence others in a good way, to let people know that you have a message. This is going to come out for, this is coming up for me with regards to, even though this portion of your reading is not the work and career area of the reading, this is coming up for me that you need to use your voice in that area of your life this year. You need to ask for what you want. And it is interesting that voice is mentioned on this card as your focus this year as well. Okay. Your voice is going to be very, very important this year. Unexpected insights. Interesting. You have two cards together here that have come out, and both of them speak specifically to intuitive development, becoming more intuitive, and having the ability to see beyond the BS. We all know that over the last approximately 36 months or so, there may have been a little bit of cloak and dagger stuff going on. For many of us, we realize that this has been going on for many years, but it's only now coming to really, really specific light for we're reaching a tipping point with regards to the people that know what's going on and those who are still kind of living behind a veil. And Scorpio, what this is telling me is that you're no longer living behind a veil, especially in 2023. That veil is going to fall in a big way, and your intuition is going to develop in a big way, which makes perfect sense because look at these two cards that are your focus. Okay. We cannot work on our soul lessons. We cannot be in a place where we are reflecting on things if we're not seeing the truth. It's really, really that simple. So let me go into these two cards a little bit more deeply. The seer, seeing beyond the current situation. Like I said, this card is all about being able to see behind the veil, see the deceptions that have been happening, see the belief systems. We're going to say BS means belief systems. Okay. You're able to see beyond the BS, the belief systems that we have all been indoctrinated into. Wow, the fact that you've got two of these cards coming up in your unexpected insights is an indication that there's really, really going to be a huge spiritual awakening for you, Scorpio, in 2023. Now, you've got the Moon card. Take note of intuitive messages. That one speaks volumes. It's very clear. But I want to point out the Moon has certain phases. And this card also calls you to pay attention to phases of your life, where you're at in your life, phases with regards to the seasons that we are experiencing. I want to point out the veil is dropping. When we look at the seasons, what's going on with the weather, you might start to see things that may make more sense or may make less sense. Do you see what I'm saying about the veil falling? Pay attention to weather patterns. Pay attention to the changing of the seasons. Pay attention to the phases of the moon. Part of what you're supposed to be doing this year is getting back in touch with yourself, getting back in touch with your soul lessons, and so on. And part of that is getting in touch with how your soul interacts with your human physical body. Our human physical body is influenced by the moon in a really big way. So, Scorpios, this year, pay attention to that. Have a look at the phases of the moon and where your mood is at and where your motivations are at. And look at when it's a full moon. Are you motivated or are you feeling a little bit less motivated? When it's a new moon, do you feel energetic and want to start a new exercise routine? Or when it's a new moon, are you feeling more laid back and want to go eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's? Okay. Pay attention to these things and try and get yourself into sync with the phases of the moon this year. That will help you to get in touch with your intuition on a deeper level as well. And I know I can hear it right now because I know a little bit about the personality of Scorpios. I can hear some of you right now going, the moon doesn't influence me. You'd actually be surprised once you start to pay attention. Take January, February, and March and just take note of your moods and your motivation for 3 months in a journal. And then go back and write down what the phases of the moon was during that time. Don't pay attention to the phase of the moon for the first 3 months if you don't want to, but then go back. Pay attention to your motivation and your emotions and how you're influenced. And I think that you'll start to see some patterns. And when you do, there's going to be little light bulbs that are going to go off going, wow, now my intuition is kicking in better at this time of the month than at that time of the month. Let's look at your general overall outcome for 2023. This is the letting go card. This is the equivalent to the 8 of Cups in the traditional tarot. This is a card of water off a duck's back. There are going to be things that happen this year, Scorpio, that are going to make you uncomfortable. They're going to make you work. You're going to have to take a look at things that are perhaps a little bit uncomfortable for you. As the veil drops and you see things from a different perspective, it's going to be uncomfortable. There is this in your difficult influences area of the reading. The best thing you can do to be able to be successful in 2023 is letting go. Like I said, water off a duck's back. Let things flow. Again, I said that this is the equivalent to the 8 of Cups. It is part of the water sign. What does water do? It flows. The same way that a river flows through a canyon, that a creek flows through a farmer's field sometimes. it just flows. And that's what you're being asked to do in 2023, Scorpio. All right. Very quickly, I'm going to put these cards back into their respective decks. And I will clear them. One more card to go back in this deck. Okay, I do use a little organite to help to clear the decks between each reading. Getting told to mix this one. Doesn't just want the organite. Okay. All right, you ready now? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's move into love and relationships, Scorpio. Let's see where you are at now. Where is Scorpio now for love and relationships? Now, I will talk about those of you who are single as well as those of you who are in a couple. For some of you, the cards will be read the exact same way with the same message. And sometimes it can be a very different message for the singles and the couples, depending on which cards come up. General overall focus for Scorpio in 2023, love and relationships. And again, we're getting called to the angels and ancestors. They want to talk to you. Your focus, love and relationships. Nope. There we go. Okay. This card you can see is turned sideways. Difficult influences. Difficult influences for Scorpio, love and relationships. Where are we going? Over here. Are these the two correct cards? They jumped. Yep. Okay. This makes sense. What makes sense? Yeah, it's going to be that card. It's the bottom card. It's desperately trying to come out. What are some of your unexpected insights, Scorpio? Where are we going for unexpected insights? Over to this deck again. Oh, we've got a card that's fallen right out of the deck. And outcome. Okay, yep, there we go. It's going to be not that one. That one. Are we clarifying the outcome? Possibly. I'll leave this one. There we go. Yes, we are, because it jumped right out. Where are you now, Scorpio, in relation to love and relationships? We've got the butterfly, regeneration. Let's start with the singles, single Scorpios. Butterfly and regeneration for where you are, excuse me, right now. This card tells me that you have spent some time as a single recreating yourself. The butterfly is always a sign that we have recently come out of a cocoon. We have spent a period of time in a cocoon, recreating ourselves, changing from the caterpillar into the butterfly. Okay. And so for those of you who are single, this in the you now area of the read is telling me that you've done a lot of work on yourself. This means you're rebirthed as the beautiful butterfly, as the beautiful new you, and you're ready to put yourself out there again. You're ready to spread your wings and fly. For those Scorpios who are in relationships, this card is telling me that your relationships are being reborn right now. They have gone through a period in 2022 of hibernation, where perhaps things were a little bit routine, maybe a little bit boring. It was just about getting through the day. And now there's a rebirth happening in your relationships. That's actually really exciting. I like this. I hate it when I turn over a card at the beginning of a relationship reading and go, oh, this is actually a beautiful card for both the singles and those of you who are in couples, because it's an indication that there has been work done on your relationships, work done on yourself. There's an infusion of new beauty and growth in your lives right now. Your focus in 2023, Scorpio, with regards to love and relationships is the mountains. It's about standing your ground, okay? Again, we're going to start with the singles. As I said with this card for the singles, this card coming up right now is an indication that you have done a lot of work on yourself. You have rebirthed yourself. You've rediscovered who you are and who you want to put out to the world and present to the world. And in so doing, in 2023, as you put yourself out there, you have that confidence to be the mountain, to stand your ground when people say, I don't like the new you, or I don't think what you're doing is appropriate, or anything like that. This card is telling me that there is strength in the person that's going to be going out on dates. And you have more of the capacity to be able to say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. We know that desperation in dating is not attractive. And for some of the other zodiac signs that I've read for, that has come up. And this is not what I'm getting for you, Scorpio. I'm getting nothing but confidence that you've done so much work on yourself. I do want to say that you'll notice the mountain almost looks like an iceberg. And we know that with an iceberg, there's a lot going on below the surface of the water. It's the same with a mountain. If the mountain didn't have something underneath it, the mountain would keel over. We know that. Which tells me, Scorpio, that you have a lot going on below the surface, that you are still doing that self-work. You are still in the process of manifesting that perfect partner. This is for the singles, like I said. And you're still doing that work on yourself. You're still continuing this regeneration of yourself that started in 2022. For those of you who are in committed relationships or in a couple, this card is telling me that there is stability in your relationship. It's like a mountain. A mountain isn't about to just go and move. Okay, some of us say that we can move mountains, but can we? But for the Scorpios in committed relationships, this is telling me that, there's solid ground to stand on. You have a solid base. Okay. This is also telling me, however, that when there are disagreements in your relationship in 2023, you have the ability to stand your ground in a relationship with regards to, I don't know, disagreement about a parenting aspect with the kids or something like that. You have that strength within you now, Scorpio, to stand your ground, but you also have this solid base so that you have the ability in 2023 to have those good open conversations with your partner and continue to have this mountain as your base. Difficult influences. That makes sense. Okay. You have 2 cards for your difficult influences. The first one is silence. Normally, the silence card would be taken as a really positive card. It would be taken about, do some meditation, do some work on yourself, open up this third eye as it's shown on the card. But what this card's telling me right now is that you're facing some silence in your relationships. This is coming up in the difficult influences. So I'm just going to check my corresponding chart. I don't have it memorized what all of the corresponding cards are. 17. Where's it? The star. Okay. These cards, the Osho Zen Tarot, correspond to the traditional tarot, and for the major arcana, there's a few of them that I still don't have memorized with the corresponding correspondences. This card corresponds to the star in the traditional tarot. And normally this card would be read as being a really, really positive card. However, if it's in the difficult influences, like I said, then it kind of has that hint of a negative meaning, which means that for some of you, you're facing that silence. You're facing that you're not getting the feedback that you want. So for those of you who are single and seeking, perhaps when you're going out on a date, you're asking questions and you're not getting the direct answers that you thought that you deserved or that you are entitled to get, right? And it might not be that your date is being cagey. It might just be that that is part of their personality. They're just not that open, bubbly, talkative type of person. But if that's what you need in your life, Scorpio, if that's what you are craving, and that's the partner that you're looking for is somebody who's going to have that open, talkative personality, and you're coming up against silence, stand your ground, remember your strength, remember your beauty, okay? Remember what you're asking for out there, okay? The second card that came up is the New Vision card. Now, this is a card, again, of intuition, being able to see behind the veil and so on. But what this is telling me is that for the Scorpios out there, and as I said, I'm starting with the singles, for the Scorpios out there, reading these 2 cards together in your difficult influences is telling me that your intuition may be a little bit clouded when it comes to dating this year. And it's not saying that that's a bad thing, but it is saying that, it might not be as clear as what you're used to. Let's move into the couples in the difficult influences, okay? Communication is key in any relationship. This card is telling me that for the couples out there that have a Scorpio member, maybe even a double Scorpio, communication may be a little bit difficult. And I kind of hinted at that with this card, okay? If you are having a discussion about something, Scorpio, you may be put in a position where you need to stand your ground as a mountain. This is telling me that communication may be a little bit iffy. And again, this card has the same meaning for both Scorpios in relationships as well as the singles, that your intuition in 2023 with regards to love and relationships may not be as sharp as what you're accustomed to. Choosing your path, all is possible. This is coming up in your this makes sense. This makes perfect sense because if you've rebirthed yourself and regenerated yourself as the butterfly, if you are now the mountain, you know who you are and what you want, this makes sense. You're carving your own path. You are creating what you want. You're creating, and it doesn't matter whether you are in a relationship already or whether you are still working on manifesting that perfect relationship. Choosing your path. You have created where you are at in your life, and you're walking that path. I can't say anything else on that one. Unexpected insights, the sequoia tree, the balance card. This is perfect for relationships, both for those who are in committed relationships as well as the singles. This is telling me that regardless of your difficult influences, regardless of perhaps the lack of communication that might come up, regardless of the kind of cloudy intuition, specifically in the area of love and relationships, you still have the capacity to manifest that balance into your relationships this year. For the singles, you're manifesting balance between trying to find that perfect relationship and still maintaining, okay. As I alluded to before, I mentioned before, desperation is not attractive. We all know that. And sometimes when we get caught up in trying to manifest the perfect partner and be in that relationship, and we've got this vision of the future of what we want, we can sometimes throw off that energy of being desperate. And what this card is telling me for the singles is that you're not doing that this year. You're finding that nice balance between going out on a couple of dates and then going out with your girlfriends or guy friends a couple of times. And there isn't that desperate focus on, oh my God, I have to have a relationship. For those of you who are in relationships, this card is telling me that your relationships, like I said, they have that solid foundation, and there's a balance there. There is a balance there between both of you, and there's compromise. The balance card also represents compromise. So this is overall really, really positive for you, Scorpios. Okay. The High Priestess is coming up for your general overall outcome. Harness your mystic powers. But the High Priestess is also a card of knowing exactly what she wants, and she goes out and she gets it. This makes sense, right? Choosing your own path. I was asked to pull a second card to clarify this card for you. I pulled it from the other deck, and you got the Master. These two cards together reinforce this card, and then this makes sense, that Scorpio, you are the master of your own destiny when it comes to love and relationships this year. There's no other way of putting it. You are in a really, really positive, good place when it comes to love and relationships because you know who you are. Having this stable foundation right at the beginning of this part of the reading, knowing that you've regenerated and rebirthed yourself, you've become in touch with who you are and who you are putting out there in a relationship, you're the master of your own destiny when it comes to love and relationships. Now, this comes with a caveat that being the master means you have to take responsibility for what goes on in your relationship, what goes on in your dating life. But when you do, when you take that responsibility and you recognize that you have created the relationship that you have, you also have the strength to be able to have that free will to stand your ground or walk away if that's what your choice is, right? But you've got this really, really stable base when it comes to relationships this year. Okay. All right. Just a moment. We're going to move on to money, work, job, career. This one back over here. We'll cleanse them all together this time. There. I've had a couple people say, why don't you pause the video while you're doing that? You know what I'm doing behind the scenes anyway, so. And I'm not very techie. Right. And I am just on the tail end of a cold here. I was sick all the way through Christmas, so I know I've sniffled at you a few times. I apologize. Okay. Scorpio, let's get in touch with your money, work, job, career. Where are you now? Nope. I'm seeing this card, but I keep reaching over here. Purple. You now. Yeah. I don't know if you can see, there's a card completely down at the bottom there. Okay, you now. Focus, your focus, love, or sorry, money, your focus, money, job, work, career. Okay, there's that card. I don't know if you can see, but there's a card here that is turned sideways. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with my weekly reads, I have a ridge in one finger and cards get caught on it. And I've just learned over the years to trust that if a card gets caught on that ridge in my finger, that's your card. Difficult influences. Okay. I'm going to be pulling 2 cards in difficult influences. Okay, there's one. And I'm getting called to pull a second card for difficult influences. Money, job, work, career, Scorpio. Yep, and there we go. Hold it down. What makes sense? What makes sense for you? Oops, okay. Got a little bit distracted there. Tap back into Scorpio's energy. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Scorpio. Makes sense. Work. Career. It's poking me. There it is. Is that the one? Yep. There we go. Unexpected insights. Unexpected insights. We're going back over here. Scorpio. And there's that ridge again. Yep. There we go. It's that card right there. And where are we going for the overall outcome? Money, work, career. Outcome. Does the overall outcome card need clarification? I'm getting a maybe. We'll see. We might pull one more card for that one. Where are you now? Scorpio, you are in a place of transformation when it comes to money, work, job, career. There's a fresh new way of living that emerges. This makes perfect sense to me because we all know that the way that we have been working and living for about the last 150 years is coming to a drastic change. That change started at the beginning of 2020, and it has continued. It is accelerating coming into 2023 and 2024. And for many of us, by 2026, the way that we currently deal with money is going to look very, very different from the way that it does today and the way that it has for millennia. So this card makes sense on a less global scale, looking at it from a more, there's a fly on the card. That's interesting. There's a fly on the card during your reading. Go away. Okay. What that tells me is that depending on your reaction to flies, it may be a little bit pesky for you. We do see flies as being pests. And so this transformation that you're currently going through with regards to work or career or money is somewhat uncomfortable for you. It stands to reason that it would be a little uncomfortable. And here comes the fly again, and it landed on the card again. Okay. You are going through a transformation. For some of the Scorpios that are out there, you already realize that there is a change in career and a change in the way that things are going to be happening. And that harkens back to the very beginning of your reading, the general reading, where I was talking about this veil falling and you seeing things that have been going on behind the scenes that perhaps others weren't seeing, and perhaps even you yourself were not seeing until very recently. And as such, you're recognizing that there is a need to transform the way that you do things and the way that things have been being done. For some of you, you are already well into this transformation, whether that be recreating yourself, looking at changing jobs. I want to say for the vast majority of you, you're probably looking at a career change. You're looking at a different way of earning money. If that hasn't already happened, then there's a good chance it's going to be happening in 2023. Let's look at your focus. Okay. Clinging to the past is your focus for 2023. What this is telling me is that you've started a transformation. You recognize that things need to change, and yet there's a part of you that is drastically, desperately holding on to the past. I'm going back to your general reading where in your difficult influences, abundance came up, which is an indication that getting in touch with abundance is going to be a difficult thing for you in 2023. Okay, I'm going to pause this and get rid of that damn fly. Just a moment. Let's hope that pesky fly is gone. Okay. In Scorpio, in your general reading, in difficult influences, you had an abundance card, which is an indication that you may struggle with abundance in 2023. It's not to say doom and gloom and there's going to be a crash. And we don't know what's actually happening. We do know that there are changes and shifts happening in the financial systems around the world. We know that's coming down the pipes. And it doesn't matter whether you want to sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist or not. We know that the financial systems are changing. What this is telling me is that if you struggle and bump up against that, if you cling to the past, it's going to affect your ability to be able to earn, work, have a career, and generate financial abundance. Okay, you're going to have to let go of the past and the old way of doing things, Scorpio. This is telling me that you've started some kind of a transformation, but in 2023, you're bumping up against something, a belief system, an old way of doing things. You're bumping up against it. Let's look at your difficult influences. Oh, that's interesting. What are the chances? Okay. Difficult influences in money and career. You got the Mountain. Now, this is really, really interesting to me that you ended up with the same card. Considering I'm using 4 decks, I have a couple hundred cards sitting out here. The chances of this card coming out twice in 2 separate readings in 1 hour is pretty astronomical. But the first time that this card came out for you, it was in your love and relationships, and it was in a really, really positive place. What this card is telling me right now is that in your money and career, you're having difficulty standing your ground. You have no problem standing your ground with regards to relationships and your peers, but for some reason you're struggling with standing your ground and being the mountain when it comes to money. Here's the interesting thing. Also, in your love and relationships, you had the butterfly card, which is similar to the lotus card. This is about resurrection. This is about regeneration, resurrecting, rebuilding yourself. You had this card in love and relationships, and yet now you've in a positive position, and now you've got it in a difficult influences area of your read for money and career. This is really interesting to me, Scorpio. This is telling me that this is reinforcing these 2 cards, that you began a transformation at the end of 2022 and moving into 2023. You're really bumping into your attachments to the past when it comes to money and jobs. Okay, this is being reinforced here, that you're bumping up against the past. This is telling me that unless you are able to let go of the past, 2023 could be a little bit bumpy for you. Now, it doesn't have to be. You can turn this around. You can stand your ground. Not only are you going to stand your ground when it comes to love and relationships, stand your ground when it comes to your job and your career, and when it comes to money. Resurrect yourself when it comes to that. Stop clinging to the past. This makes sense. Crossing bridges. It's time for healing, connecting, mending, and releasing. Okay. This makes sense because you need to let go of the past. You need to cross that bridge and move into the future. Okay. This card is for releasing. Cross that bridge, release things, heal the past, move forward. Unexpected insights. You got the diversity card again? No, this was the card of the day today. That's why that came up. Okay. Diversity card. What is that telling me in relation to your money and relationships? This is telling me that if you're clinging to the past, there's no diversity. Okay. the new way of doing things with regards to work as well as money. We need to diversify. We need to do things differently. We need to recognize that there are other ways of doing things other than the way things have been being done. This is your unexpected insight. When you realize this, there's going to be a huge shift for you into a much more positive job, career, money situation in 2023. But you have to recognize this. You have to let go of the past, and then you're going to move into diversity and recognize that there's a different way of doing things. When you do, things are going to shift and get really positive. Okay. The trader is your outcome for money, job, and career in 2023. The trader, exchange energy to create abundance. Okay. Diversify. Recognize that it's not always about cash money. There are trades that can happen. There is a different way of doing things. You already realized that at the end of 2022, but then something shifted in your psyche. I believe that there is a lot of fear that's come up, and fear throws us into the past. It throws us into holding on to something that is unsustainable, something that is changing and shifting. When we do that, we tighten the grip. We go into fight or flight. We go into that fear state, and we don't have the ability to be able to grow. In order for you to be able to grow this year, Scorpio, you've got to do some releasing. You've got to cross bridges, recognize that there's a new way of doing things, diversify, and recognize that, trading is a form of abundance. Okay. You probably have skills that you don't recognize are extremely valuable to people. Again, I'm going back to the very, very beginning of this reading when I pulled your very first card and I mentioned, I think some of you may have a little bit of imposter syndrome. You don't recognize the gifts that you have to offer to people. And this is bringing all of your reading full circle for 2023. Recognize the gifts you have and learn that you can trade those for abundance. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, all of the Scorpios out there. I really feel honored that you have watched the video, that you've put your trust and your faith in me. Happy New Year in 2023. Watch this space. I do hope to be doing some more prediction videos in the very near future. Thank you again.